Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to some StarCraft for the TSL5 qualifier. A little bit late getting back to it, but we are, in fact, back into it. It's a brand new best of 3, and while I didn't get to do cool intros, it is Harstem and it is Bly. And if you have been watching our tournament this week, you've seen Bly play against countless Protoss players all freaking week. He's been cheesing most of the games. Harstem's a really smart player. I don't want to float his ego too much, but he's kind of intelligent, and I think he knows exactly how Bly plays. So there should be some kind of counterplay ahead of time, just in terms of Bly's not going to get away with proxies so easily. Harstem will know to look for them, and that's what this probe's kind of poking around to do. Hasn't seen the third just yet, but sees no natural, and that's enough for him to stick around. I had not seen marbles done before. That was more exciting than I expected. I've heard a lot of people doing it, but that was first. Well, hopefully we'll have a little bit more freedom where we can watch the full races play out. I'm sorry we had to cut to it because I thought we were going to have a lot more downtime than we did. The game just kind of was ready to go. So back to it. Here we are with TSL5. But Stream Raiders, marbles, I mean, that's the beauty. Because we're not using a delay, we can play these mini games with you guys in between matches and in between series. But kudos to Mapu so far today. He's been pretty quick at getting us into games, right? Like, that was the first bit of downtime in what, like 3 hours nearly? Bim, bam, boom. But yeah, the Zerglings, they're kind of just maneuvering around. Bly's really good at microing these. It's going to be very difficult for Harstem to actually win a fight here, so has to wait for the adept. He just kind of stacks the probes away from the gas mining. Chip out a boy! Boy! Thank you very much for the sub, man. He used his own hard-earned cash, too. Not that free Twitch Prime. Have you guys heard of Twitch Prime, by the way? I know you might not have, but Twitch Prime is free. Raid Shadow Legends.
Raid Shadow Legends.
Okay, I don't know what I'm doing. I went full silly sellout. It was like a sneeze. You can't help it, right? Like it's Raid Shadow Legends. But while I get a tissue, can you guys type !raid in the chat to get me a tissue? Ugh. Now Bly has not done a proxy hatchery, but of course his third base was, or his third base location is where he put his second hatchery. Still going to use that to funnel units directly across the field. Harstem is outgunned super hardcore, but there's some cool maneuvers he can do to buy some time to those shield batteries up, and shield batteries will make all the difference in terms of whether he can even have a chance to hold this or not. Not to mention when the Stargate finishes, Oracle's going to be the only thing he can really afford? Nah, not even. GG. Bly. On fire. Takes game number 1. Game number 2. Top left side of the map. 1-0 is Bly. And his opponent to the bottom right side of the map, the red Protoss, Harstem. Fibrick. I'm not going to say you're wrong, but I'm not gonna not say you're wrong either. Amazon Olex, thank you for this 16 months. Okay, that loss is pretty brutal for Harstem. Everybody knows it. But there is a small silver lining to it. He cut his losses early. And Bly can be one of the most infuriating players to play against. He will drag games out. And I feel like you will tilt yourself out of the game before anything else. I think it was Goblin just yesterday even went to all chat to say, why can't you just leave the game like a normal person? Like, it was a game Goblin was winning and he was still getting pissed off. Bly gets in your head. He really does. Not just with stubbornness, but also just his builds. So yeah, game 1 was, I'm really curious what this drone is. I'm falling tightly. Game 1 was all in. Game 2 looks like it's not gonna be too much different. Third base has been placed in proxy. And realistically, Harstem knows something is up again because the probe sees no natural base down. That doesn't tell him what this is. So if he's feeling really paranoid, he may scout with the probe, and if he does, he'll see the third pretty quickly even. But the fact that he's not going to scout this, it's just tough to deal with. Actually, to me, this is a little bit too, because it is Bly. I know how he plays. I know Harstem knows how he plays. I'm a little surprised scouting isn't a bigger emphasis for him, but at the same time, I know Harstem's a really intelligent player who may have just simply guessed what Bly's doing, and with that could probably maybe just blind counter it, or at least that would be the hope if you're a Harstem fan. Side note, I don't know if you guys saw this. Harstem put a video up on YouTube recently, him pretending to be AFK against another GM player and then winning the game. And it blew up, and it's always on my recommendation. I'm like, YouTube, I've already watched this video like 4 times. Can you chill? Maybe recommend one of my videos to somebody for once. Come on. Anyways, memes and jokes aside, I just use this to further highlight Harstem knows how to play this game. He's very intelligent, and I know game 1 didn't really reflect that because of the score. I'm hoping this time he gets a much better chance to show that off. No, Fiber, because Bly's actually good, so I don't know if that's a fair comparison. You see Bly's vision misreads kind of what's going on here initially, but Harstem's got 3 shield batteries that are finishing up. He's got the backup pylon this time, so his one pylon can't get sniped off. He doesn't have a lot more units to fight with, but he's got a lot more things to assist the units he has. With another shield battery finishing up, this is already looking way better than the first game. Shield battery is doing its job here pretty nicely. Just keeps these units topped up. At some point, obviously it runs out of juice, but by then, hopefully the Immortal's out in play, and things get a little bit easier to manage with a Warp Prism too. Rifkin has a YouTube question mark? Yeah, it's Base Trade TV 2, the number 2, because our first one got shut down. Copyright abuse. Not for me, by the way. I'm a good boy. I license our music and I play all these things. Anything you see on the stream most of the time is copyright clear. Sometimes we goof around a bit, but for the most part, I go with stuff that's clean. That we still get flagged on YouTube, so 2 strikes means I can't upload a video over 10 minutes on our first channel. So this year we abandoned it and remade it back in like January. This new one from scratch is almost caught up to our old one, which is nice. Definitely go subscribe, guys. Exclamation mark YouTube in the chat. Shamelessness aside, though, Bly continues the assault, and with these Ravagers, you know, the Crucibles are about to knock down the Cyber Core, or almost knock down the Cyber Core. Kind of a good catch, but also not one that's super important or critical to Harstem, because he's not relying on force fields right now, nor is he building a bunch of Stalkers. So if the Cyber Core goes down, it sucks, but this is not a devastating move. In fact, the scariest thing about it is it just opens up the wall, really. The longer this goes on, the more I feel it favors Harstem. Bly also doesn't know that Harstem isn't mining while this goes on. Like, there's no natural base with like a probe line of saturation. So if he assumes that Harstem's done that while he has an army this big, that's scary. That's terrifying. I'm not sure what the game plan is, though. I mean, the Immortals and the Warp Prism should likely never really get caught. Maybe some AFKs units, you know, he's not paying attention. Crucibles could hit, sure, but realistically, the Queen shooting off the Warp Prism is probably his best bet to shutting down Harstem's defense. Yeah, Harstem's he's not playing too carelessly. He's keeping these units nice and healthy, not taking too big of risks, and most importantly, not walking face first into Crucibles. And you can see Bly's making a couple of Zerglings right now. Anything really to get across the field and help reinforce. This is still pretty tough to call. The army supplies are very even, but Harstem doesn't have the freedom to take a natural base. In a weird way, this is 1 base versus 2, but realistically it is 1 base to 1 base. This is about as basic brute forcey and all in as you can get from both sides. Truthfully, I want Harstem to hold this. I want this to go to game 3, just like Jerobomu in the chat thinks is going to go. But the scary thing about this is it just takes one mistake to throw this all away from either side. A Warp Prism, for example, flying really close to the Queens is always terrifying to see. A couple good force fields locking the Ravagers, so grabs a kill or 2. The army out of Bly is really not too fantastic, frankly. I'm not too impressed by what he has, but he's got a lot of numbers, so he still has a chance to fight for sure, especially if Harstem gets caught outside. Some weird stutter lags. I'm assuming that's a client-based thing. There's been some of that happening with North America recently. But we're in Europe now, so I don't know. You want to tie it up so you get both game 3 and 4. Oh, you greedy, dude. Those are honestly though, if these guys actually had a stalemate, that would be sick though, because you know it would be some ridiculous base trade, right? The force fields push off the Ravagers, allowing him to segment the Lings and fight only the Zerglings for a time. Now they clean up most of the Zerglings, turns it around on the Ravagers, and of course Harstem is bleeding a lot of his gateway units, but he manages to keep the big ones alive, scooping up sentries and immortals, keeping them both safe inside the warp prism. I gotta say, this has been a pretty good defense out of him so far. This would be so much better if he had a national base down. I think that might be even what he's considering. Warping some more units now, so maybe never mind. Yeah, Bly will be mining out of his main base. Harstem will be too. This is Bly confirming there's no natural while this goes on. Is going to give him a lot more confidence about his current position in the game. No question about it. Coming on the backside, loses sentries. Gotta scoop up those immortals. Those are the powerhouse to this. They are the mitochondria. I guess Bly's mining a little bit. It looks silly and it sounds funny, but I mean, honestly, any money is good money at this point. Harstem's really focusing up on that hatch rate. Immortals have got big damage, even against units that aren't armored. This many immortals wailing on a Ravager kills it, no problem. But of course, gets that full 50 bonus damage versus buildings, so knocks that down, deals with this problem for now. Probably trying to predict some of the corrosive biles. This is the time to push for Harstem. Ooh. Excuse me, Link's getting to the main base. Took a yawn there. I'm already crashing from the Red Bull bros. Gets to the main base. This is a real problem, but Harstem really shouldn't come back home. I feel his best bet's to just push right now and punish Bly. So hopefully with what he's got at home, takes very minimal losses. But these immortals, that Warp Prism, this is the time. There's almost nothing in play for Bly to defend this with. Remember, most of the Zerglings, they're out on the other side of the field. They're not at home. Drones are pulled. Link's in from the backside. More force fields zone out the drones. Actually, really clutch force fields for Harstem to mitigate a lot of damage, but Bly flies out of chances at this point. I feel 14 drones back to one base. I mean, Harstem just has to, worst case scenario, wait for the barriers and the immortals come off cooldown. Once they come off cooldown, you're just gonna move up that ramp. Mortal Warp Prism's too good, says Fibrick. Really good control makes it good, obviously. Scooping them up, dodging the corrosive biles is always nice. That massive range in the Warp Prism helps too, but that's it for Bly. Everything, literally everything pulled into this final fight. And it wasn't enough. 3 drones remain. Even if Bly were to, by some miracle, kill the rest of Harstem's army, he's got no money. He's got no income. He's about to have no drones if he's not careful. 2 drones left on the map. GG. Harstem will tie up the series 1-1. Spawning here on the bottom left side of the map. It's the blue Zerg player, Razor Edge Gaming's Bly. And his opponent to the upper right, the red Protoss. Team Liquid's newest acquisition, Harstem. But yeah, for those who don't know, basically we are teaming up today. It's no longer just Rifkin on the solo show. Mapu, previous WCS main observer, is providing me a clean feed, which does have the required 2-minute delay attached to it. So there's still 2 minutes between us and the players, but I get to do it live this way. And I told Mapu I would give him 50% of whatever we earn tonight to pay for his time. With 50 gifted subs, pretty much taken care of, which is good. Hopefully that'll be enough for Mapu to come back and do more of these in the future, because I think this is a really cool idea if we can keep pulling things like this off. I don't think there's any extra value or anything crazy to being the only one being live, but it is just a nice little quirk. Plus, we can continue to play all our little mini games that we normally can't play off of the 3-minute delay. You probably shouldn't advertise you're breaking the rules, Rifkin, but I'm not breaking the rules, so there's no problem with it. We've already spoken with the admins about it. It would be breaking the rules if I was streaming with no delay from the game to the stream. But there's 2 minutes between the game and the stream. I just happen to be on the other end of it, which you can't do alone, which is, I wish we could do alone. I've looked into so many ways of doing like a delayed self broadcast, but I realized there was no way to actually observe it properly. Yeah, it's much nicer for me too. I think it's a lot more fun because it stays live. But one thing I've been doing. I like money. Wow, Mike, thank you. He says like this. What's this? Like this format? I'll read that in a second. Hang on. One thing I'm having trouble with though is I keep reaching for the mouse. Right? Mapu's doing a really good job observing, so it's not like, oh, I'm frustrated, I want to look at something he's not looking at. But like when I see the cursor sitting there idle, for example, I want to just drag it out of the way. And every time I do, I'm dragging the cursor on my second monitor. And I'm like, oh yeah, duh. Anyways, Mike with a $50 holler. I'll be splitting that with Mapu. Thank you, man. He says, like this format. Okay, cool. He does look perfect. Yeah, there should be. I talked to Mapu. We'll be doing the second EU one as well, I think, like this, and the next NA one. We missed out on most of the Korean ones, but Korea's too fucking early in the morning to wake up anyways. Nuke War for the 2,500 bits. Thank you very much. You're helping us make this an awesome experience, and hopefully Mapu will come back for more. But the roach attack and the proxy hatchery, we all know how this goes. Harstem did a really cool block though, and I didn't really highlight that because it didn't really occur to me just now how devastating this was for Bly. But this was the Rich Vespine geyser he built this on. This is huge. It's gonna buy him a lot of time because it's gonna slow down the roaches. Oh, someone did a raid thing in the background. Thank you, whoever that was. It's gonna slow down the roaches coming out. Not in terms of the roaches that are out aren't gonna move slower, but instead of having 7 roaches, 3 of which are Ravagers, he's gonna have like probably 4 Ravagers and maybe like a roach on the side right now. The gas is pretty low for Bly, taking it off of a normie geyser back at home. So he won't get that explosive growth that we've seen him get, but that was such a cool, it's such a small, almost insignificant move out of Harstem that is so instrumental to influencing the way this is going to go. Harstem learned quickly and steals the gas. Yeah. It doesn't look like he's going to get this thing stalker out, so Bly's going to tear down the gate. Well, actually, maybe he will. He puts the crystal balls on the cybercore instead. I'm pretty confident that if he had targeted the gateway, he would have actually denied the stalker. Now, look, I don't know who you guys are cheering for. I don't know who you're rooting for on this one. I'm kind of torn. I really like Bly. I really like Harstem, so I'm going to abstain from the vote. But I will say this much. Neither player can afford to make mistakes in a game like this. Because the all-in dial has been turned to maximum on both sides, this is one of the most difficult kinds of StarCraft 2 matches to play. But the small solace, by the way, is this is still the winner's bracket. This is the upper bracket, so even if somebody here loses, they still have a chance in the qualifier. Now, Biles continue to launch. Real headache to deal with because it just doesn't have the range for it. So all these buildings that are just kind of on the outskirts are going to keep getting picked away at. Who in the fertin' heck can give me a gosh darn subscription? Probably Letho, the Stream Slayer. He dropped off 50 subs earlier. The guy was amazing. There's a pretty good chance that's where it came from, I would guess. Now the force fields have obviously taken away some of the energy from the sentries, but up to this point, those are like the first casts he's had to do, so it's not too bad actually. All things considered, I would actually really like to see how hallucinations would help this effect in terms of defense, but Cybercore comes up in the back, anticipating that he's going to lose the forward one. If he doesn't lose it, then it's still not bad to have a backup one. I'm trying to figure out where Bly goes from here, right? He doesn't exactly have a phenomenal economy. He's sitting on 24 workers, effectively 1.5 bases because one of his bases is in that weird lower middle position. That looks like it finally did get gas going. Oh, good catch on the ramp. Duelings did make it through to the main, but that force field denied the rest, and that was what matters most here. A ton of overlords are also rallying forward, man. Bly's gotta be a little careful with these. Having more overlords is good, but losing them and getting supply blocked is not. Sunia, thank you for the Twitch Prime, by the way. Queens are walking up here too. I mean, with Bly, it's never really a question of like, is it all in? It's more like, when is the all in finally committing? But the Queen's coming up, he might just feel confident enough to push through. Catches, though Harstem's also had time to build some things himself. Stargate finished up some time ago, and I believe an Oracle's on the way. With no real anti-air other than the Queen, the Oracle might even kill several of these Ravagers if Bly's not careful. In fact, he goes directly for the Queen. An Oracle can win a 1v1 Queen fight, but it's that corrosive bile that hit it that made this a lot more scary for said Oracle. Now I think the supply's a little too low. Trying to fly away. Ah, okay. Gets away. Queen barely survives too. Red HP. I will say Harstem's doing a fantastic job of denying the corrosive biles the big damage that they're looking for. Bly has been constantly launching them into this dead space where there's no buildings and they're not really connecting with any of the units, so just wasting the cooldown, buying himself more time. I mean, he's up on like 40 almost probes. But the Oracle joins the fray. A little scared to go in versus the Queens. Stalker's taking a bit of an auto attack fight, not how that was supposed to go. And for Harstem, this suddenly gets very scary. Those shield batteries are out of juice. He's got a couple on the back line, sure, but he needs with these Oracles to clear up the rest of the Ravagers. Love tap? Love tap? No love tap. Bly just kind of licking his wounds right now. He still doesn't have a second base back at home, but he has been putting some drones into that base in the lower right center part of the map. But I mean, from what I can tell at a glance, it's mostly been gas mining until these eggs recently hatched. Now we'll start getting some better income, but still pretty far off in terms of income. This is tough, guys, because this is game 3, right? This isn't game 1 of the series, fresh set. You know, you can afford a loss. And even though there's a losers bracket to go back to, a lot of people just drop out of the losers bracket because they don't want to play another 4 hours. It's a long day to climb up from there. No Immortals question mark? Well, there's no Robo in play. He's not been able to afford it, right? He went Stargate, so with all this production of Oracles, there's no gas to build a Robo. I don't even think Immortals would be the best call in this situation anyways. Having Immortals is good. I'm not going to argue that in the slightest, but it's a very different than usual situation. This is your not typical ZVP. Crossbow's taking out sentries is always good if you can pull it off. Oh no, the pylon wasn't rebuilt. A lot of Zerglings managed to get through into Harstem's main base. Queen's also pushing off the Oracles, grabbing a kill. Through one very brief moment, Harstem manages to lose out both defensively and offensively. Not crazy, devastatingly so, but still, freebies are freebies. It jumps on top of the Queens, targets the high energy one down, denies transfuses, grabs all the remaining Queens at this point, and actually brings some more power back to the Oracles, since there'll be even less that shoots up now. Spore Crawler, sure, but I mean, that Spore Crawler's not around the Ravagers. Yeah, Harstem gets on top of the workers next. Kills these last few units. More Ravagers are coming up from the main base to defend, but Bly's economy, as we already know, is pretty behind. Now it's really, really behind on 18 drones to 46 probes. Third base being taken from Harstem, by the way. We're not going to see Bly tap out anytime soon, I imagine, because it's Bly, but this is some nice dominance out of Harstem in the mid game. Nice early game. He's exhausting his stalkers. I'm a little worried about this. Army supply plummets. Oh, sorry, I forgot to turn off Steam after we were playing marbles. I'm glad I don't have any friends with really inappropriate names who just signed in. You know, I was gonna say like Slayer 94 is now playing like Sex Simulator or something, and I'm gonna be like, oh, great. Monkus. Now, losing an Oracle to a Crystal Ball is always a little embarrassing, but I think Harstem's in a really good spot. He can afford to make some complacent mistakes. I mean, even though Bly does take a second base back at home, all he's really doing is transferring over the drones mining there to the drones mining there, right? Like, they don't actually, he doesn't have more. He's still on 24 workers, a very limited run of income right now. Something that Harstem might not know of, but he's going to recognize the next time he sees the army be so low. In fact, 3 oracles hit the main base. They target the queen first. Every drone in the game pretty much is stacked up into space right now. It's good for counting, if nothing else. We get a little awkward with this run by. Oh, come on, guys. Banter is fun. Let's not get you know, no one's crossed the line yet, but let's not cross the line, okay? That's all I'm just gonna say that. I really like both the players in the matchup. That's why it's actually been a really difficult one to commentate, because I definitely swing both ways, and I mean that with all innuendo entirely. But yeah, Harstem looking pretty solid right now. 74 army supply, 57 through probes. It's really not going to take a lot to just break this army, and Bly won't have the money to really rebuild it. I mean, they might pivot into corruptors or something desperate, but more Ravagers isn't going to work. I mean, more Ravagers and Roaches haven't worked up to this point. I don't know why they would either. Woodhead saying good news is whoever wins stays in the upper bracket. Yep, very true. Gives you the headache of playing through an entire losers bracket just to try and come back for that same match. But we should talk a little bit about Harstem in this, because some of you, I'm sure, are frustrated. Like, how has he not just ended this whole man's career, right? The thing is, he doesn't really know what Bly has, despite these oracles. They've been used more for damage than scouting. So it's important that he doesn't throw away a very already won game. And that's what happens when you start walking across the files, or you misunderstand the army. But either way, irrelevant. GG. Harstem will take the series 2-1. And don't worry about counting Bly out. Bly has a loser's bracket to fall back to.